You guys look like you spend some time at the gym.
We have to.
Why?
We wrote crew.
We Row Crew, the same made famous in the social network. To rowers of the world, it means more than just sitting in your butt, facing backwards, and pulling on an oar to win.
I used to see the crew team practicing out on Lake Mendota, and it always kind of intrigued me, and it always looked like a lot of fun. So I went down at the beginning of the school year to find out more about it.
Despite getting up early, despite getting cold, wet, and freezing, it takes a special kind of person. But if you've stuck around more than 2 years, then you're just absolutely in love with the sport.
My roommates all ended up just kind of picking up the sport, and they were coxswains and rowers, and quickly all of my friends became rowers because of that. And so I took a year, and they convinced me, and I came down, and like, crap, should have done it last year.
Let's see, first time I got involved with rowing was in college. So coming to Marquette, I'd always done some sort of water sport growing up, and I was looking at joining 3 club teams, and after talking with the rowing guys, there was just such a sense of camaraderie with them that I decided to stick with it.
It's really hard to describe because you almost are on this high.
In the mornings, it's beautiful, and it's calm, and it's peaceful, and sometimes you're angry, but it doesn't really matter.
8 guys, 4 guys, or girls working together to reach absolute perfection. It's the only sport there is where the goal is perfection.
It's a mechanic sport, and it's all about your personal drive.
Remember feeling like I was floating above the water, like I never felt one stroke of the boat.
You have to think a lot more because you have to make sure that you're helping the guys in the way that they need to be helped, and you're coaching them as, you know, in the boat in the way that they need to be coached. So I don't know, it was a little bit more of a mental exercise.
You know, in time, every catch going in together, and you know, it's when you're in a long race, it's hard to keep them motivated for.
Energy towards moving the boat faster, and not just for myself, but for the people in the boat with me.
You have to rely and trust each and every person in your boat. Without that, there's no point in going out.
I just lived for the crew team. It was, you know, what I lived for. And
you know, I don't know, I mean, it translates to everything because it's a team sport, but it's also individual, and so.
The interactions that are required. You know, talking to someone and motivating people in a boat is a lot different than some of the other sports I've been involved with.
with rowing, even though you're an individual in the boat, you have to be doing exactly the same thing as everyone else at exactly the same time.
When everybody has the same goal, I personally think that willpower carries a lot into it. If everyone has the same goal, you can meet that goal because you'll put in the effort for it.
You don't have rock stars in a boat. If you have a good player on a basketball team, they're going to stand out and everyone's going to notice it. In rowing, if one person's better than the next guy, you're not going to see that. It's how well the boat does as a whole.
Everybody has to work together. You know, it's kind of a unique sport because even though it's a team sport, everybody has to be doing something in perfect unison.
So it's not just get in a boat and row, but it's get in a boat, row, learn how to interact with your teammates, learn how to interact with the other squads in the boathouse. It's a little bit more dynamic.
Rowing doesn't just stay within rowing, it translates to everything else. And
when you get any group of rowers together, it inevitably, the conversation will end with rowing or get to rowing at some point.
The catch and the finish and controlling your slide and, you know, recovery and feathering and all of those.
You just kind of understand each other. I don't know.
It's consistent no matter where you are. I mean, domestically, internationally. You're always going to be able to relate to people because of the sport.
It's a language that you can talk about things like shells and sculling and splits and whatever, and that makes sense.
When my mom died, the very first people to show up the very same day were my teammates. And it's a community. It's, for lack of a better word, a brotherhood. There's a common bond that extends amongst all rowers.
To be able to communicate with everybody on the same level.
A lot of those things that I think that other people who are not familiar with the sport don't really understand.
I think rowing is a good representation of character. You know, how you can conduct yourself in a boat, how you can push yourself mentally and physically is absolutely an indication of your character.
Because anyone who gets up before the sun comes up, goes out, knows what it's like to break up ice or deal with the bitter cold, which is true wherever you are at some point, and go out there, let a little person just berate them and put themselves through absolute physical torture and love it. That's just the forms a universal bond.
And I love it. I love coxing.
The sport has eclipsed the lives of many. From bringing a high school student up from a dark point of his life, giving a college student a medium to achieve, grow, push for success with a family always around him, to giving survivors of one of the evils of this world a path to recover, live their lives, all while still kicking cancer's ass. We row crew, we sit in boats facing backwards as we push our bodies, our minds, and our hearts further and further, all for the glory of seeing a smile and sense of accomplishment from those sitting in front and behind us. We do so with little or no recognition. No $1 million paychecks, no dedicated time on ESPN, no paparazzi. But this is why we row. It's our sport, and it's rowing. Olympian or teenager, cancer survivor or college athlete, club or varsity. It's still rowing, and it's ours. Our language, our ritual, our lives. We accept that it's a cult, because it's our family and our everlasting connection to one another. No matter geographical or social background, we row crew, and a lot more.